All right, let's jump straight into something that feels incredibly relevant today. Voice interfaces in healthcare.
Yeah, basically letting doctors and nurses actually talk to their computers, their medical tools.
Exactly. And we've got a good stack of source material here, really digging into how this works and, the potential impact.
And what really jumps out from these sources is just how intense things are in healthcare settings. I mean, professionals are constantly juggling tasks.
Right.
Some of the material highlights how manual interaction, clicking, typing on EHRs or devices is just a massive drain, especially when their hands are busy, like with actual patient care.
Yeah, you can picture it, right? A nurse mid-procedure needing to type, or a doctor trying to chart during a consult. It's clunky.
And one source really drives this home, suggesting doctors and nurses spend a huge chunk of their time just on documentation, time that could be spent with patients.
And manual notes. They're slow, maybe prone to errors. Even old-school dictation wasn't always seamless, needed special training or transcriptionists sometimes.
Which leads us right to the solution proposed in a lot of this material. AI-powered voice interfaces. They frame it as a really key use case for AI within that rapid framework.
Rapid application integration and development.
Exactly. So the idea is using AI, voice recognition, natural language processing, NLP, to build these voice-controlled clinical tools.
Okay, so the core tech is AI understanding speech and turning it into action or text.
That's the heart of it, yeah. Leveraging AI so they can just speak.
So our mission today is to really unpack what the sources say about this. How does it actually function day to day, and what are the big impacts they're seeing or predicting?
Let's start with the basics then. How does it work?
Yeah, fundamentally.
Well, at its simplest, it's swapping the mouse and keyboard for your voice.
So instead of clicking menus or typing notes...
You just speak. You speak commands or you dictate information straight into the system.
And what kind of things can they actually do with just voice commands?
Oh, quite a range, according to the sources. Things like accessing patient records on the fly, ordering meds, controlling certain medical devices hands-free.
Hands-free is big.
Huge. And maybe the biggest one, documenting patient interactions basically in real time.
Okay, tell me more about that documentation part. How does the AI handle, turning speech into usable notes?
So the sources describe this AI-powered voice-to-text as just much more intuitive, more efficient. The software listens, transcribes what's said into text almost instantly.
Absolutely.
Pretty much, yeah. It populates the right fields in the electronic record. And crucially, the AI learns.
Learns? How so?
It learns the user's specific voice, their accent, even their common phrasing over time. So it actually gets better and more accurate the more you use it.
Okay, real-time transcription that adapts to the user.
Mm.
That sounds genuinely useful, not just theoretical.
Yeah.
Can you give us a picture of what this looks like on the ground? Maybe walk through a couple of scenarios from the sources.
Sure. Let's take a patient consultation, like one source describes. The doctor, instead of scribbling notes or typing later, just speaks into a mic or maybe a dedicated device during the visit itself.
Right there with the patient.
Exactly. And the AI software transcribes it straight into the EMR, the EHR, the patient's digital chart, basically live. The doc can quickly check it, edit if needed, then move on.
So it weaves the documentation into the conversation rather than being this separate chore afterwards.
Precisely. It changes the workflow. Another really compelling example is the operating room.
Okay.
Imagine a surgeon needs to see some imaging or adjust a setting on, say, a surgical robot, or even dictate a quick critical note during the procedure.
They can't exactly step away and type.
No way. Voice commands let them do all that without breaking sterile field, without touching anything. It's hands-free interaction when it matters most.
Wow, okay. Those examples really make it click. It's not just about typing faster, it's fundamentally changing how they interact with tech in these critical, often sterile moments.
So what are the big payoffs, the tangible benefits the sources are highlighting?
Well, one source lists several key ones. First, a major boost in efficiency. Just cutting down that time spent on manual data entry, navigating systems. It adds up.
And that save time, I imagine, leads directly to the next big benefit, which is
the increased focus on patient care. Absolutely. Less time staring at a screen means more time, actually connecting with you, the patient, listening, observing.
Makes sense. Being more present.
Yeah, and one source specifically mentions this. Saves time, cuts down the admin hassle, lets providers focus more on the patient. Plus, another source points out something interesting.
Oh, what's that?
A reduced risk of infection.
How so?
Fewer people touching the same keyboards, the same mice all day long. It's a small thing, maybe, but it could help minimize germ spread in a hospital. That's actually fascinating. Linking infection control back to how they input data. Are there benefits to the documentation itself, like the quality?
Yes, definitely. Another source notes that because it's easier and faster to document right in the moment, the patient records tend to end up more accurate, more complete.
Less chance of forgetting details later if you capture it right away.
Exactly. And better, more complete records mean, well, better communication and coordination across the whole care team looking after you.
Right. Improved accuracy, better team coordination.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty significant impacts.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned saving time. Do the sources happen to quantify that at all? Like how much time are we talking?
They did, actually, and the number is pretty striking. One source cited a survey of doctors using this kind of AI voice tech.
Yeah.
They reported saving, on average, get this, 2 hours per day just on documentation.
Wow. 2 hours a day. That's huge.
It really puts that administrative burden into perspective, doesn't it? And the source went on to talk about the knock-on effects. Well, reclaiming that time meant physicians could potentially see more patients or maybe spend more quality time on complex cases.
More capacity, essentially.
Yeah, yes. And importantly, the source also linked this directly to professional well-being. It mentioned improved job satisfaction and specifically helping to reduce burnout.
Giving back 2 hours a day, I can absolutely see how that could make a massive difference to someone's stress levels and, overall well-being in such a demanding field. That stat really hits home.
It does.
Okay, but let's talk practicalities. Implementing this, especially somewhere with huge linguistic diversity, like India, for example, that sounds like a challenge. What do the sources say about the hurdles?
That's a really critical point, and the sources do address it. Particularly for diverse places, the absolute make-or-break factor is accurate voice recognition. Not just in one language, but across multiple languages, multiple dialects spoken in that region.
The system needs to understand not just medical terms, but medical terms spoken with many different accents and in different languages entirely.
Precisely. A system that only gets, say, standard English or Hindi wouldn't cut it in many parts of India, for instance. That's a major technical lift.
Definitely sounds like it. What else is involved in getting this rolled out successfully?
Well, beyond the core tech accuracy, the sources stress careful planning is vital. You need to make sure the voice system integrates smoothly with the existing EMR or EHR systems and any other clinical software they're already using.
It has to play nice with the current setup.
Right. And then there's the human element. Comprehensive training for the doctors, the nurses, all the staff will use it. It's not just plug and play. They need to be comfortable and proficient with it.
Makes sense. The tech is only as good as how well people can actually use it in their workflow.
Yeah.
So, okay, pulling this all together from the source material, what's the big picture? What's the overall potential here?
I think the consensus across the sources is pretty clear. These voice interfaces have the potential to really streamline workflows in a big way.
Cut down the admin burden we talked about.
Significantly reduce that burden, yes. And ultimately give healthcare professionals back that invaluable resource, time. Time and focus they can then dedicate directly to you, the patient.
And some sources frame this as a really powerful example of how AI, maybe using that rapid approach, can build tools that aren't just about data management, but actually support clinical practice.
Yeah.
Make those incredibly tough jobs just a bit more manageable.
Yeah, it's about using tech to enhance the human side of healthcare, not replace it.
So this deep dive really paints a picture of a future, maybe not too far off, where doctors and nurses can literally just talk to their systems, getting them away from the keyboard, away from the mouse.
It's a pretty transformative idea, definitely.
Driven by this fundamental need to make these demanding jobs, well, easier, and let them focus on what really counts your well-being as a patient.
A compelling vision.
And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on, something that really comes out of these sources. Consider the impact, the real human impact, of giving healthcare providers that gift, the gift of time. Time clogged back from documentation, time that can be plowed right back into patient care, into listening, into that human connection. And maybe, just maybe, time that helps shore up their own well-being, fighting back against burnout, taking a bit better care of the people who care for us. That feels like a future worth aiming for.